Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist. I own 52 units of real estate and I help coach people to buy their first multifamily deal. So today I've been reflecting a lot about financial freedom, my journey to financial freedom, and the different phases that I've gone through. So kind of my first phase that I went through from 2017, probably all the way up to 2022 was called scale phase or the builder phase. So during the scale phase or the builder phase, I'm leveraging a lot. I'm putting 10% down to buy a house hack. I did that 4 times, right? I put 10% down my first property, house hacked it. 10% down my second property, house hacked it. 10% down my third property, house hacked it. And then during this window, I'm like more leveraged, right? Because I'm trying to make my capital go as far as possible. I'm trying to juice up my return on investment, and I'm just trying to get deals, right? And for me, I didn't want to partner. I didn't want to raise capital. I didn't want to do all of this. I used my own hard-earned money from my W-2 job as a pharmacist to basically buy these properties. So, obviously back then in 2017, I put 10% down for $800,000 property, and I put $8,000 down. Interest rates were around 4% at that time. 3.5% to 4% was kind of my average interest rate back then. Every year or year and a half, I would buy a new house hack, right? So I'd buy house hack in 2017, 2019. I think 2021. So, every year you kind of scale. And then, given COVID, given the crazy market in the Bay Area, every year my properties went by $80,000 each, right? So if you own like 3 or 4 of those properties, you're making like $320,000 of equity every single year, like doing absolutely nothing, right? So once again, chalk it up to luck, chalk it up to good timing. At the time, I didn't know it was good timing. I didn't know it was good luck, right? I just took action and I bought it, right? So I was just fortunate that I was action oriented, that I focused on increasing my income, that I managed my expenses, and I was consistently just buying properties 10% down. But during this scaling phase, as you can tell, I'm more leveraged, right? I put 10% down, I have 90% debt, and my properties are going up in value. But I would say overall, I was probably like, after a while, like maybe 25, 30% equity and 70% debt as my equity built up every year after every year. But after buying 4 single family homes in the Bay Area, I was like, I want to scale. I want more cash flow because I want to retire. So what I did was I did a huge cash out refinance on all my single family homes, pulled out a lot of equity. So now I'm leveraging again, right? And I use that equity to basically buy my 26 unit apartment complex with, I did 25% down, but I got seller credit of around 12%. So I put 12% down by self-funding my renovation. I bought my mobile home park with 10% down seller financing, and I bought my 20 unit with a hard money loan, which came out to be around maybe 12 to 13% down. So once again, I leveraged, right? I leveraged my portfolio, leveraged my equity, did a huge cash out refinance to buy these properties, right? And then, so fortunately, my properties kept going up in value. The single family homes went up in value. I was able to force a lot of appreciation on my 26 unit, right? Because with multifamily, you've been following my channel. I was able to effectively double my net operating income by renovating the units and raising the rents up to market rent. And from there, because it was valued at $800,000 at the current rents of $350 per unit on average, and after spending about $10,000 in renovation per door, I was able to raise it up to a little bit below market rent of $700 per unit. And from there, I was able to double my net operating income, which will then double the value of the asset. So I bought it, I was all in for $800,000, and now it's worth about $1.6 million. So I forced $80,000 of appreciation, right? And then kind of same thing for my 20 unit, right? I bought it for $350K. I renovated most of the units. I was raising the rents from about, I think, $300 on average to about $500, which is kind of a little bit below market rent. And then on this one, I was able to, force a lot of appreciation on this property as well, right? And obviously my mobile home park, I sold it for a loss. So I lost money on that one. But during my scale phase, as you can tell, I was, number 1, highly leveraged. Number 2, I was trying to put as little money down as possible. And number 3 was that once I built up equity, I was leveraging that equity to go buy even more real estate, right? So I had a lot of debt and not as much equity, but because I was able to force appreciation on my properties, it gave me equity. Because my single family homes in California just appreciate $80,000 a year since I bought them, I was able to get more equity. So fast forward to today. I would say from 2017 to 2022 was the scale phase. 2022 to I would say 2024 was kind of the stabilized phase. So during the stabilized phase, what am I focused on? I'm just focusing on stabilizing my portfolio. So that was finishing renovations on my 26 unit. I sold my mobile home park because it wasn't a good deal. I stabilized my 20 unit apartment complex. I'm really looking at my expenses. So how can I save costs on insurance? How can I save cost on renovations? How can I save cost, things here and there, right? And then after I did that, I'm analyzing, okay, like which property would I want to sell if I were to sell, right? So I'm thinking, like, if I wanted to sell an apartment, it'd be my 20 unit. If I wanted to sell a single family home, I'd probably sell my first house hack, right? So I kind of hit that stabilization phase for the past like 2 years where, honestly, I'm taking a break. I'm taking it easier. I'm like trying to de-stress, and I'm trying to like look at my portfolio and like really see like what it's really like to own real estate, right? And see, do I like owning real estate, and do I want to continue to own real estate? And during this window, like I said, I was really burnt out. I was stressed, depressed, anxious, tired. So it's really reassessing that portfolio to see like, do I like this, right? And then during this window, I learned that yes, I do like to buy real estate, but probably don't want to buy in California anymore because it's a little bit expensive unless I'm house hacking. But I'd like to continue to buy in Huntsville, Alabama. I'll do a separate video about that. I would like to continue to buy apartments in Oklahoma, but I want to go at a time when I'm ready to buy, and it has to be like a really good deal, right? So now that I kind of assessed what is it I want to do and have clarity on what I want to do, now I'm kind of entering my next phase, which is it's called the harvester phase. I've been watching a lot of Coach Carson, has a lot of subscribers, owns a lot of real estate as well. But during the harvester phase, this is when you're not optimizing for return on investment. This is not when you're optimizing for return on equity. This is when you're not leveraging as much. Remember, scale, I was leveraging, right? 10% down, 10% down, cash out refinance, pull out my money, lines of credits, right? Against my stock portfolio, lines of credits on my unsecured line of credits. Trying to buy real estate using as much little money as possible to force a lot of appreciation. But during the harvester phase, and like I said, scale, you're focused on ROI, you're focused on leverage. The more you leverage, the better your ROI. But once you're in the harvester phase, you're not as focused on return on investment. You're not as focused on return on equity. You're more focused on lifestyle. Like what's optimizing for my lifestyle, right? What's optimizing for peace of mind? What's optimizing for sleep well at night? What's optimizing for taking some risk off the table, taking some chips off the table, taking some risk off the table, right? So once I got thinking about that, it kind of hit me that like, okay, like if I want to take some chips off the table, it would, and I want to retire early, right? Like for me, retiring early is retire by 40. And what's my base expense? My base expense right now is I bought a primary residence in May of 2024. It's almost a year now. $900,000. I put, I think, 5% down, believe it or not, which is $45K. And, I have a 6.5% interest rate, but my monthly mortgage, just property or principal and interest is $5,500 a month, right? And if you throw on property tax, insurance, HOA, it's another $2,000 on top of that. So I'm paying $7,500 a month, right? Versus I had this, my first house hack I bought in 2017, I bought for $800. It's worth $1.4 million today. I put 10% down. I rented out to the same tenant since I've moved out of it for about $4,100 a month, which isn't much. But I locked in a 3.1% interest rate, which is amazing. But literally, I could sell that property. Yes, I wouldn't get $4,000 a month in income, which was break even anyways, despite me self-managing it. And if I have any expenses, then I would have to come out of pocket, right? I could sell that, take that $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 of equity, because I think my loan's about $600,000 now. So take that $800,000 of equity, pay your capital gains tax on it, whatever. So maybe I have like $70,000 left. I could use that to almost pay off my primary residence, and I put in maybe another $100,000, right? So I would lose a property that broke even and pay off my primary residence that has a $5,500 per month mortgage. So in a weird way, if I pay that off, my cash flow increases by $5,500 a month, right? If I continue to work. If I decide not to work then my expenses are lower by $5,500 a month. So at that point, maybe me or Christine, my future wife, can work part-time, right? Maybe we don't have to work full-time anymore. It's also taking some risk off the table, right? And it's also taking about $1.4 million of debt off the table. So my loan to value will decrease further. So I'm at 50% right now, right? About $5 million in debt, $5 million in equity. If I were to sell my first single family home, that would wipe out $600,000 of equity or debt from that. And then I would wipe out my debt here, which is about $800,000. So I would basically wipe out $1.4 million of debt. So now my equity will stay at $5 million, right? But my debt will drop down to about maybe, $3.5 million. So, I might be less than a 50% in terms of loan to value. So it's less risk off the table, right? And it makes it more comfortable for me to be able to retire, right? And then my cash flow will still stay the same because this is a property I'm selling that's not even cash flowing. It's breaking even, right? But has a lot of equity in there. So that would give me more peace of mind, number one. Peace of mind to basically retire earlier if I want to, or step down to part-time. This will lower my expenses significantly. Number three is it'd make it easier for me to want to retire, right? And then number four is it just gives me more flexibility, more options, and it's more lifestyle oriented. Like, yes, it is a terrible return on investment to pay off your primary. Like, I could literally take the $800,000, right? Let's just say I pay the taxes on it, and I could buy, let's just say, 4 single family homes in Huntsville, Alabama for $250K each that rent for maybe $2,000 each, and I would get $8,000 a month, right? I'd get $8,000 a month in gross income. And then if you minus the, because let's say there's no mortgage on these, you have to pay property tax, you have to pay insurance, you have to pay property management. So maybe after that $8,000, maybe you'll have like $5,000 a month in cash flow. And then that $5,000 a month in cash flow could theoretically cover my mortgage, right? For my primary residence. So that's the more like leveraged way to do it. But to me, there's just some sort of peace of mind knowing that like your primary residence is paid off. I know it's like, it makes no sense at all, like financially. But like, that's another way to think about it, right? I could literally buy 4 properties cash and negotiate a discount essentially on those properties. And then those rent off $2,000 each. I'd get $8,000 gross, let's say $3,000 expenses. And then I have $5,000 cash flow and that covers his mortgage. But like you said, if one unit's vacant, boom, I just lost $2,000, right? So now I only get $3,000 in cash flow, and then that's not to cover my mortgage, right? So for me, by paying off my primary residence, which is a fixed expense, it wipes off a huge fixed expense off the plate, right? But fortunately for me, I have multiple single family homes that I call piggy banks, right? So if I'm in the harvester phase, let's just say I want to sell my San Francisco property, which has, let's just call it $500,000 in equity, right? And then I could buy a bunch of these houses in Huntsville, Alabama, which is a more cash flow market. So I'm taking my equity in a low cash flow market, high appreciation market like California, and 1031 exchange that into a low appreciation, high cash flow market like Huntsville, Alabama, right? Where let's just say I sold my San Francisco house for $1.5 million. That means that I have to buy $1.5 million worth of new builds in Huntsville, Alabama. So that'd be me buying, 6 new builds, where let's just say I'm putting, if I have 6 new builds, divide by $500,000 in equity, because when you 1031 exchange, you have to, like, the price has to be the same or a little bit higher. So if I sell it for 1.5, I need to buy about $1.5 million worth of real estate. So, that would be 6 properties, they're $250 each, and I have, let's say, $500,000 to use. So you divide that amongst 6 properties, so that's about $8,000 down, which ends up being like, a nice 30% down payment on each property. And then, I would get 6 times 2, that's $12,000 a month in gross income. And then maybe after all your expenses, maybe you'll be at like $7,000, right? Of a net positive cash flow. And I'm going to go from like having a gross rents of $8,000 all the way up to a gross rent of $12,000. Right? So that's another way to like kind of harvest your equity, harvest your cash flow. So I could have one property that I use to wipe out my mortgage, which saves me $5,500 a month. I can 1031 exchange another property to get like 6 more properties that gross $12,000 a month and will cash flow decently. And I could use that to like fund my lifestyle, right? So this is the moves that you have to make as you harvest your real estate, as you harvest your equity, right? Or I could sell off some properties and pay off other properties. So let's just say I don't like my 20 unit anymore, right? Maybe it's not doing as great as I thought. I could sell that, take the cash flow, take the equity, and pay off my 26 unit, which is cash flowing well, right? So I don't have to deal with balloon payments anymore on my multifamily properties, right? So this is when you're like reallocating and trimming, right? Like, okay, let's say I don't like my 20 unit anymore. Okay, I sell it, get my $400,000 equity, use that to pay off my 26 unit. Now I wiped out debt off what I paid $2,000 a month on that portfolio for debt. So now that debt is less. So this is when you're really like doing asset management, right? So that's why for me right now, I'm trying to like buy more properties. I'm trying to buy a lot and then sell some to then use that to pay off my other properties. So let's just say I own 10 single family homes in Huntsville, Alabama, right? And let's just say I want to just retire, don't want to do it anymore. I'd sell 5, use those 5 to pay off the other 5. Now I own 5 free and clear, right? So that's why I want to buy a little bit more than what I need. So, that's just my thoughts on the harvester phase, right? And this is the phase where I just want to take it easy. I just want to travel, spend time with my family, spend time with my kids, right? And I'm kind of approaching that phase. And at that point, I don't have to work in management anymore. I could take an easier job. I can work part-time, right? So that's really the whole point of real estate investing, is for your lifestyle. Like, harvester phase is not about optimizing your ROI. It's not about leveraging. It's really optimizing for your lifestyle after all the 10 years of hard work I put in, right? So that's the whole point. So anyways, hopefully you found value from my financial freedom journey. Let me know if you have any questions. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching and want mentorship, check out the link down below. Otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe. Hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much.